And it won't happen overnight, because when you look at your life, sometimes, and there could be people in this room who are going through the deepest, darkest thing in their life right now, and they're fighting so hard, and their biggest wish is that it would just end, and that pain and that hurt would disappear right at this moment, but it doesn't. But that's not how life works, and that's not how God works. He's got a process to everything, and He's going to help people through that process. But what that process ultimately does, and what the process of creating the world in 6 days and resting on the seventh ultimately does, is it points to His glory, and we start trusting in the idea of this is how God works. So if that's how God works, then I can trust that maybe I'm not great right now. But if I follow Him and I trust Him, I will be one day. And on the seventh day, I'll be able to rest, and hopefully rest in His presence. And I think it's like a huge motif to everything in life. Everything. From your life as a child to becoming a young adult and all this stuff, and even to your death. I feel like He's giving us all these answers, but He doesn't just like force them on us. He puts them out there and He presents them in a way, and He lets us either choose to see them or not. I put something up on my Instagram yesterday. I have another account called Tagged by Jesus, which I love to share just my thoughts about the Bible and the gospel, and I was talking about Luke 19:9, where Jesus says the Son of Man, which was a reference from the book of Daniel as the Messiah coming, says, I've come to seek and save the lost. And we so often think, I'm searching for God, I'm on a search for God, and I meet people, I'm like, I'm a spiritual person, I'm searching for God. And I actually last night sat in my hotel room and I realized I'm not searching for anything. I'm either choosing to believe that He is there right in front of me, or I choose not to believe that. He's already searched me out. It's just a matter of whether I'm willing to stand and look at Him in His face. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about Jesus. He's the only God that became human and stood in front of humanity so that we could see Him. Because we need to see something. Because we have this huge unbelief system. I always talk to people and they go, how do you believe that God can be, everywhere? How do you believe that God can be the Son, the Spirit, and the Father all in one? And I'm like, let me ask you this question. You have a credit card or a debit card in your bank account, right? You're like, yeah. I'm like, you trust your bank more than you've ever trusted God. Because you take your card out and you just believe that your money's physically in a bank somewhere, in your wallet, and going to be in the ATM when you pull it out, anywhere in the world. And you don't call your bank every single day. You go, are you sure it's there? Are you sure? How do I know it's there? I can't see it. Promise? Promise. Do you know what I mean? But we trust. We trust our banks, and we trust this idea of this card more than we trust God. But ultimately, it's the same thing, So I always find it really, really interesting. And that's why Genesis. Biggest problem. What does man do? And people always go, I want to understand God. We were never created to understand God. We were created to trust God. So the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, God creates this beautiful paradise. And He says, everything is yours. And I want you to manage it. I want you to look after it. Like, I'm giving you what I've created. And that's a really good indication of the character of God. He wants to share. He creates this paradise. He goes, I want to share it with you, but I also want you to look after it. So He hands it over to man and woman, right? But then He says, there's only one thing you can't do. Eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And people are like, that's horrible. Why did He set them up? And He's like, no, that's the most important element in the garden. Because what's the most important thing in a relationship? Trust. If there's no trust in a relationship, forget about it. So what God was doing was one of the most beautiful things. He goes, I want a real, perfect, beautiful relationship with my creation that I have created in my image. So I'm going to put a tree in there and say, just trust me. You're here to trust me. I'm not going to explain everything about why the tree does this or that or why. Just know not to touch that. And the one thing that we couldn't do is trust it. And when you look at today, every single sin, every single flaw, every single transgression, inequity, every time we fail and let ourselves down, and everybody knows that feeling when you've done something wrong, it touches some part of your soul where you're like, I wasn't good today. Whether you believe in God or not, you just go, I failed. That's us choosing our own understanding of what's right and wrong and what's best or worst, and not trusting what God says is right and wrong, good and evil. And it's the same sin every single time. Do I choose what I think is right, or do I trust what He says is right? Which I find fascinating, because everything comes down to that one question. Is God right or am I right? And that's the biggest struggle of humanity. Even the idea of God becoming a man, becoming flesh, is like a mind-boggling thing. And that's why Isaiah is so interesting, because God says that He's going to be a sanctuary to some and a stumbling block to others.